What's up, guys? Welcome to the Crowncast. We got a lot going on today with the NFL, and boy, was it an interesting weekend. So, I'm Dawson, that's Logan,
What's up, boys?
and you know what? We're going to go over our top 10 teams in the league after week one. So, are you ready for that?
I think so.
All right, let's get to it. So, we're going to go from 10 to 1. So, who do you
Yes.
have at number 10?
I have the Cowboys.
You have the Cowboys. All right. So, we have lists to 32, but we're going to go over that. Like, we'll post that in our Facebook or on Instagram because it's just too much to go through. And,
And who cares about the last 20
like,
teams?
logistically, like, nobody gives a damn
No.
about the last 22 teams. So,
No.
my number 10, and a lot of people are going to be mad at this, I have San Francisco.
That's kind of fair.
To be honest, I think the Lions were only in that game because San Francisco let them be in that game. I think a lot of fans wouldn't like to hear that, but you scored 13 minutes in the final 2 minutes of quarter. Like, it's now granted, or I just said 13 minutes, 13
That's why I was
points.
giving you a weird look. I was like,
So I think there's like this thought process that, oh my God, this game was so close, but realistically, they could have won it. But I think the 49ers left the door open for them to come back a little bit too much.
well, I think they still had their starters out in the fourth quarter, I believe. The 49ers. They just let off the gas.
Yeah, and then there was some mistakes. There was the onside kick, and then I think there was a fumble recovery. It put the Lions in a position to make plays, but honestly, they were never really in the game the whole time.
Like, the momentum definitely shifted within the last couple of minutes, though. Like, 100%.
Yeah, like I just don't think that they were really in that game. I think the 49ers dominated that
So
game.
what about the 49ers? You got them at 10.
Like, what about them that got me? Like, so I think, look, I mean, Garoppolo looks like the guy going forward. He played pretty sharp, I would say. And it's cool to see that they're rotating Trey Lance in for a couple plays here and there. I think that's interesting. That's not necessarily the reason that I have them at 10, but he played pretty well. And their running back stable is, they lost Raheem Mostert, which we'll go over later. And that sucked, but Elijah Mitchell showed up and he balled out. I mean, he played great for them. And so it's kind of hard for me to say, oh, a team that played that well, isn't that good. And they could fall, they could rise, but right now I think 10 is a square number for them to be at. So,
Yeah, I got the Cowboys at 10 mainly because their passing game was just
dominant.
dominant versus the Bucks. And Bucks aren't a bad defense, you know. Obviously, their corner. What's that look for?
I would say their corners and their DBs could
Well,
use a
maybe
little
if you
work.
Let me finish my sentence.
Well, I did. I stopped myself. Yeah.
Sure.
So you started
Yeah,
talking to me.
sure.
Okay. We're not fighting.
We never. Fight.
Everything is fine.
There's no debate.
All right, go on.
Obviously, as we know, defenses win championships. And obviously, in January, you can't throw the ball for 400 yards. You have to have some sort of running game. So I think I have them at 10 because until they establish like a running game, because Zeke was non-existent, and I understand like, oh, it's the Bucks, but it's like it's the Bucks.
Right.
You got to run versus the Bucks. So you can only count on throwing it 60 times a game, so many times.
Well, and like I said, one of the problems that Mike McCarthy has as a head coach is he doesn't get the most out of running backs. And we know Ezekiel Elliott is capable of being an all-pro back. He's done it. So it's not like it's not out of his wheelhouse.
I don't think
to do
he's
it again.
washed, but I don't think the system really
Benefits him.
benefits him in any way.
No, and back to the 49ers, one of the things that I think they need to work on is just tightening up on mistakes. There's a lot of players on the team that are young. You're going to have mistakes. It's a football game. Nobody plays a perfect game. That's just how it goes.
Speaking of the 49ers, I have them at 9.
Okay, so you have them above me. I thought you might
Yes.
have them lower, so that's good to
No.
see.
I have them at 9 just based off the fact that last year, or 2 years ago, they were like really, really good. Last year, they fought injuries, what player got hurt? Was it Jason Verrett?
Yeah, he's out for the season.
Yeah, he's out for the season
So that's
now.
tough. That's
That
tough
is
to
tough.
see, especially when he's their top coverage corner.
And then they had to lose a running back as well.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert. I brought that up, I think, but yeah, he's out for the season too. So
That's already 2 guys in week 1. And like I said in the first podcast, like if the 49ers can stay healthy, which they've had a problem with for the past couple of years, they're a top team. But until then, like,
we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Well, and the other thing is their defense didn't exactly show up to be the defense that everybody thought they would be in
Right.
week one. not to discount the Lions that they didn't play well because they did have some good drives. I still don't think Goff is their guy. He made a lot of mistakes in that last throw in that game. Oh, we'll go over that stuff later.
Yeah,
but
we'll go over another quarterback that had a game.
we'll get there definitely. So at number 9 for me, I have Arizona.
Really?
And I think you probably have them higher, but I put them at 9 because honestly, I think the Titans' defense is just that bad.
Oh, that's fair.
Now, granted, that doesn't justify what their offense didn't do on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Titans came out super flat and just honestly, they were just like the Packers. Like it just was not their best day by a long shot. But Kyler Murray looks like the MVP. Like he looks so good right now, and that's a bold statement because there's some really good players this weekend. But
and like you said, the Titans' defense is trash.
Right, and so then the other thing is Taylor Lewan, All-Pro tackle, got bullied in this game. I mean, just
didn't he make a tweet about it?
Yes, he did. He completely acknowledged how badly he played.
Yes.
Chandler Jones had 5 sacks. 5 in a single game? That's ridiculous. There's players in a season who won't get 5 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't see that very often.
No, you don't.
He literally...
Do you think that defense is a fluke for one game, or do you think they're going to be like that all year?
I think they're going to get sacks all season because Chandler Jones is a beast. We know he is. But then you have J.J. Watt playing across from him.
Yeah.
And they have some really good coverage linebackers who are fast. Isaiah Simmons comes to mind. They can make plays like that too. I mean, they play kind of a viper position, but like a hybrid. They call it hybrid in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think you're going to see a lot of guys get sacks on Arizona's defense. So that's where their value will be. And Isaiah Simmons had an interception this week too. Don't forget that. So it was a good defensive showing by the Cardinals, but equally good offensive showing, if not better.
Moving on to number 8, I have the Browns.
Okay, I respect that. I have them a little higher than you, but...
Well, rightfully so. I think that they played pretty good in the first half versus the Chiefs, but as we know, you can't. The second half for the Chiefs is really where it matters.
Definitely.
You got to play them for 4 quarters.
Well,
and trying to stop them for 4 quarters is pretty much impossible.
I mean, to keep up for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
For almost a whole 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Baker doesn't throw that bad pick at the end of the game. It might be going to the Browns, but like Cleveland looks good. And you know what? They're without Odell Beckham again. So like, you know, it's just
I think they're going to be out with him for a while because he still hasn't even played like tackle football yet.
And I know we talked about this. They might be better off without him. Because
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said about what he brings to the table. He's obviously very talented. He's fast. He's shifty. But his body, A, hasn't been able to stay healthy. And B, they spread the ball more without him.
Yeah.
Jarvis Landry gets the ball. Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think there was, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But there's good players on that team who get the ball.
Because Baker looks like at other players when OBJ is not on the field.
Well, like Kareem Hunt had like 8 catches out of the backfield. That's wild. And he's the secondary back. So, like, the ball gets pushed around a lot more, and I think they're more consistent on offense without OBJ. And that's not to discredit OBJ's talent. He's a good player, but he's got to be healthy, and he's got to be ready to play. And I think that it just benefits them to be able to spread the ball that way. So, moving on, at number 8, I have New Orleans.
Okay.
You know, and in my power rankings, if you guys look at this, it'll say the first thing it says is this one hurts a bit because...
Yeah, a little bit.
They put on a clinic against Green Bay. There's no sugarcoat. We got our asses kicked. You know, like. Now, granted, Jameis Winston got some really easy throws in there. That deep.
Thanks to Kevin King.
Again, that deep touchdown to Deontay Harris. I want to say it was.
I think so.
Wide open. I mean, I could have made that throw on the playground. So it's not like, oh my God, Jameis Winston is this incredible. He's good. He looked good. He was very efficient. He made the right plays when he needed to. He didn't make mistakes when he could have. You know what I mean? Like, he looked good. And honestly, on the ground, they did what they wanted. If they wanted to have both their running backs over 100 rushing yards, they could have had it. Tony Jones and Alvin Kamara could have both had over 100 rushing yards. They absolutely dominated offensively, defensively. I mean, look. Adams and Rodgers, all-time combo, but they looked absolutely terrible. Other than the
whole
one
team,
pass,
was out of sync.
The only people who showed up to play, I feel like, were the offensive line and the special teams. Everybody else looked like they had taken the summer off because some of them did, but like
Like who?
not naming names, man.
You're not naming names?
No, but I
Why?
think everybody knows who I'm
Why?
talking about
Name
there.
names.
Well, the thing is, he did the same thing last
Who's
year.
he?
Aaron, you know I'm talking about Aaron. Don't come at me like
The
that.
host of Jeopardy? Or the quarterback?
Shut up. Both. So anyway, he just looked like he was tired out there. Like he was just ready to retire. But like he's still like he was on Pat McAfee's show yesterday talking about how it was, just a bad performance and a literal kick in the nuts, apparently. So it's just I don't know. Like I think New Orleans is gonna have a good season and their defense is very good. I mean, they locked up us all game, so
Well, that's the thing too. Is like the receivers weren't getting open.
Yeah. So like, how do you
Aaron
throw?
had all day at the throw, but there was nobody open.
How do you throw a ball to nobody? You can't. Like you're gonna start forcing passes and then you're gonna throw interceptions, which is what happened.
Yeah.
And then he hucked it deep and it was way overthrown because he's just trying to get the ball up the field. We're running out of time,
Yeah.
But
Who do you got for number 7?
so I have Buffalo at number 7, which feels
Me too.
low, Oh, you have Buffalo at 7 too?
Yeah.
So like for me it was like, gosh, I don't want to put them at 7. But they lost. You know what I mean? And it scares me because it's like, is Buffalo just that good? Or are they, excuse me, is Pittsburgh just that good on defense? Or is it just Buffalo having an off year right now? And again, it's week 1, so you don't
It
want
is
to jump to
week 1.
conclusions, but it's like every Monday, every Tuesday, you do these overreactions to everything that happens in the league.
Yeah.
So it's just tough. But what are your thoughts on it?
I think that they're still a top 10 team, which is why I obviously have them in my top 10. But I think that week 1 versus that Steelers defense is hard.
You know what, though? It may benefit them down the stretch because you can learn a lot from playing one team. And so, like, who do they play this week? Probably an AFC or East team, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's Miami.
Yeah, it is Miami. I have Josh Allen. I don't know why I didn't know that.
So, like, that's a good matchup for them to bounce back, I think. Not to say Miami didn't play.
Miami every single
Not
week
to say they
last
didn't
year.
play well, or Miami didn't play well last weekend. I mean, they played the Patriots.
They
and
got a dub.
Yeah, they won.
So.
But I think that's a better game to bounce back than playing like the Patriots, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, I like Buffalo still. I think they're still.
I think Josh
team.
Allen's still going to be like an MVP candidate.
Definitely.
I think Stephon Diggs, like you had him in fantasy.
That was tough.
It was
I mean, he
tough
had
for you.
14, 15 points, but
I mean, Josh Allen had like 19 for me, so it was pretty tough. But
yeah,
they'll bounce back for sure.
it's week 1, and I think this is one of the things is like as a Packer fan, don't panic. Like I've been saying this.
Relax.
Yeah, RELAX, right? But like, I just don't think that week 1 is indicative of an entire season. Like not to get ahead of the us, but like I don't think Houston's gonna win a ton of games this season, regardless of how they played week 1.
On a little side note, in case you guys didn't know, fun fact of the day, the Indianapolis Colts have lost 8 straight
8 straight.
week 1 losses.
That is the longest streak currently in the league, and
8
I think
straight.
it could be the longest streak of all time. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Last year they lost week 1 to the Jags, and the Jags went 1-15.
Exactly.
So
don't panic, people.
Don't
If your team lost
panic.
week 1,
unless
don't
you're
panic.
the Lions, then you should panic because Jared Goff had all day to throw
On that
and
last
was
pass,
still getting sacked.
he literally has no pocket awareness at all.
0.
I mean, like, he can make plays. He has all the skills to
absolutely.
make plays and be a good quarterback in the league, but he just doesn't. Like, I don't like Jared Goff. I didn't like him when he was
Well,
drafted in
the
the
pocket's
Rams.
collapsing and you're still trying to throw the ball. It's like, dude, you need to run.
Either get out of the pocket or just throw the ball. Like, especially if it's that 4th down to end the game, get the ball upfield. Even if it's an interception, why are you worried about, like, try to make a play?
Exactly.
I don't know.
So number 6, I have the Steelers.
So do I. Okay, so this is interesting now.
This is very interesting. I feel like we have the same top 5, I would hope.
No, because, like, you have Cleveland on the back end
Okay,
versus
fair.
what I have. But
Then I'm really confused on who you have. But
I think you'll figure it out pretty quickly. We just have different orders of the top 10, I think, kind of.
I don't know. You're all right. Well, Steelers.
So Steelers, yes.
Thoughts?
I mean, honestly, here's my only gripe, right? And this is not always a reflection on the offense, more as it is the defense they play. But Najee Harris, you use your first overall pick on him, he has to get more than 45 yards on the carries he got. Like, it was not a good game on the ground for the Steelers, and Ben wasn't insane. I mean, he was pretty inefficient. He threw for he had like a 50% on connections with wide receivers. Like, I don't really love how they played in week 1, but again, I try not to think about it as like, oh, they played a bad team, because the Bills are not a bad football team.
No, they're not.
So it's like, yeah, you won the game, so I'm going to put you above the Bills, but honestly, I like the Bills more. So for now, we'll keep the Steelers at 6. That's just my opinion.
I completely agree with that, so we can just move on.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good assessment, I thought, you know.
I don't know what Big Ben has left in the tank.
I mean, he still can huck the ball, make no mistake, but he, it's kind of like there was a couple guys this weekend who just looked old and tired, and one of them was Big Ben, in my opinion. Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan. They all looked real tired this weekend. And we can talk about Matt Ryan in a few minutes if we get around to it, but I got some things to say about that game.
Number 5.
Okay, so my number 5 is Cleveland.
I have the Rams.
And that was Cleveland's the first team that I put on here that lost this weekend. And I like them so much. You know that. I'm a big Cleveland guy this year. The land, baby. So I think that's more of a Cavaliers thing, but I'm running with it.
It's Cleveland.
So they were with the Chiefs till the bitter end of that game. And I don't think anybody can take that away from them. Now, moral victories don't matter in the NFL. Right. If it's not a win on the stat sheet, it's not a win. But everybody knows what that Chiefs team is capable of, especially if they get rolling. So if they had won...
Which they already are.
If they had won week 1, though, what does that look like for Browns fans? Do you know what I mean? Like, what does that look like for the league?
Cleveland's by 4 points.
Respectably. Like,
yeah.
If the defense had held up with just a little bit better, Chubb maybe doesn't fumble, like they might be looking at a victory this weekend. And it's tough because you want teams that, like, I'm an underdog fan. I like when Cleveland went 0-16, you're like, wow, they were really, that fan base, like you saw the 0-16 parade that year. Yeah. I think it was 2015. They deserve success. Like, that is such a loyal fan base. And I think the same thing about the Lions. Like, I'm a Packer fan. I can't hate the Lions. I especially can't hate their fans. It's got to be hard. You know what I mean? Like, we've had rough years, you and I. The first football game I ever went to professionally was the year that Green Bay had Brett Hundley in.
Oof.
Yeah, because I could afford the tickets. Do you know what I mean?
Rough.
And they beat the Buccaneers that year in overtime. Aaron Jones' first touchdown carry, I believe. It was like super awesome for me. Like, I have the video of that. It was just like a really cool experience, right? So for Cleveland, I can imagine watching so many years of just being mediocre, and now I feel like this is their year. Like this is a chance.
Remember when they used to like have the stats of how many quarterbacks they used to have in a certain amount of years?
Well, it was like 19 quarterbacks in like 15 years, something like that. It was stupid.
Yeah, something stupid like that. So I have the Rams at number 5. We watched them Sunday night versus the Bears, which we struggled to play that game, but
we had to make some.
We had to make some sacrifices.
Some unorthodox methods to get it, but we got there.
We got there.
Shout out YouTube TV for crapping out at the worst time. But anyway,
listen to the 9/11 on 9/12.
Yeah, like that was weird. All day too. Anyway,
Rams. Like I said, I had Stafford up as my MVP, and damn, did he look damn good.
He delivered.
I mean, I had Cooper Kupp in fantasy, so I was freaking hyped, even though I lost. But
so, question, just quickly. I saw that you picked up Van Jefferson, and I just want to know, do you think he's going to be one of Stafford's favorite targets? He really liked to hit him down the stretch. He dropped a couple passes, but I mean, that deep dart, like he hit him wide open. He fell down, got up, ran to the end zone. That was a 70-yard play. Like,
I mean, this is my thought process, and like, I mean, Darrell Henderson, like, he actually played solid, like, not bad,
solid,
which I didn't expect. We were kind of chirping him.
To be honest, I'm not a big Cam Akers fan, so to me, I'm going to trust a coach's decision to start some guy, right? So if he trusts that Cam Akers is the guy going forward, I'm going to be like, okay, so Cam Akers is the best running back on that roster, per the coach's decision. I don't think that's true anymore. I think Darrell Henderson is better. I didn't like Cam Akers last year. He looked kind of bad in my opinion. I don't know why everybody was so hyped about him, but
I picked him up in the draft, but
not saying that he, like thoughts and prayers, hope he recovers quickly, that kind of thing. But like Henderson looked good. He really looked good. And like, Sony Michel to back up, he can make a difference in the passing game if they get him acclimated to the system and things like that. But like as of right now, Henderson's definitely the guy going forward. And I like the Rams at 5.
yeah, I just think that him and Cooper. I mean, he looked Cooper Cup almost every single.
He really didn't get to the ball to Robert Woods a ton. I think Woods did have a touchdown though.
Woods didn't have a touchdown, but I think that every game's going to be different. So like one game you might get Cooper Cup, one game you get Robert Woods, which is how it was with Jared Goff. But I think that like when one player is hot, he's gonna be hot the whole game.
Yeah, you kind of got to ride the wave there.
Cooper Cup was wide open. There was like a 10-yard gap from the corner and the safety.
Yeah, well, something about Cooper Cup, he just gets open somehow. Like
He does.
Like when they have the camera panned on the quarterback while he's in the pocket, and then it pans up to his pass. It's just Cooper Cup standing in the middle of the field by himself. It's something weird like that, but.
I think Robert Woods was actually double the whole game. If I'm
honestly,
wrong.
You might be right, but like the Bears' defense didn't look good.
No, they did not.
People talk about how daunting the Bears' defense is. I think they only sacked him once, maybe.
I mean, he threw for over 300 yards.
Yeah, so
he
like
had all day to throw.
I did some stat checking, and the Bears had one combined sack, no interceptions, and just 5 tackles for a loss. That's a bad performance on defense.
I mean, that's bad performance, but then you got to look at who they're playing. I mean, the Rams are not no slouch.
No, but I wouldn't say their offense is top 5 in the league either. I mean, granted, we'll see because they have so many new moving pieces in there, and the offensive line may have improved. I'm not sure who they brought in or if they brought anybody in, but like the Bears might not be as good as people think they are going to be.
That's fair.
I mean, I just don't know. Like a lot of people were saying they were going to win 10 games this year. Now, granted, I'm a Packer fan, so the people who say that, I
mean, then again, like I think Dalton's still going to get benched.
Well, so yeah, I want to say he had 206 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception, and lost a fumble. That's not a good game.
That interception was pretty early in the game, if I recall, first quarter.
Yeah, I think so. That's not a good game though. Like by NFL standards, that's a bad game. Like I'm allowed to say that. My quarterback just had the worst game of his career.
Very much.
And
so.
Honestly, numbers wise, it's not that much further off than Andy Dalton. Like 40 yards and one less interception, but he didn't fumble. So I'm just saying, like he can't give the ball away. And Fields looks sharp every time he's on the field. I think he had a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
So I mean, you got that at least. But moving on.
So who you got for number 4?
So my number 4 is the Rams. So we just kind of went over that. But
fair.
Who do you got?
Seattle.
Okay, see, I like Seattle a lot there too. So now I'm curious. You must have the Cardinals pretty highly ranked in here.
I do.
Okay, so just to put it out there. Well, actually, you go out first. You talk about
Seattle.
Yes.
Okay, obviously we know about DK Metcalf.
Generally, yeah.
Tyler Lockett to me is still
A1.
the most underrated wide receiver.
How is he always like available in round 6 in drafts?
I don't know.
It's so weird.
Nobody talks about him. He's a stud, and he does it every year.
Consistency is, his lifeblood, I think. But
you got Chris Carson, who's still pretty solid. Russell Wilson speaks for himself. Will Disley, nobody talks about, but he's still played pretty solod. He didn't have crazy
I don't even think he had he might have had 2 catches in that game, but
yeah, go look at stats. He actually did pretty good.
Did he?
Everett, he's on my fantasy team, but he did have a touchdown.
Gerald Everett's solid though. He was good with the Rams.
I just think that Seattle offense is no joke.
And honestly, they played defense really well against the Colts. And also, I want to say, people were hating on Carson Wentz after that game. And you might have even been. I don't know what you thought. But if you look at his numbers and the way he played with the way the offensive line played, which uncharacteristic by that offensive line, they're usually very good.
They are usually very good. But I think if you look at the scoreboard, it's not terrible versus the Seattle Seahawks. It's 28-16. It's only 12 points. I know 12 points is kind of a lot, but like I said, the Colts are never a week 1 team, and I think that Carson Wentz still I don't think they have a wide receiver one yet.
I don't either.
I
Zach
think T.Y. is
Pascal's,
out,
yeah.
but I think that it's going to be like a rotation every week. It's like, like Zach Pascal is going to get 2 tutties, and then Pittman 1 week, and Hines actually out of the backfield is like freaking dominant for some reason.
He gets the ball and passed a lot. I think he had 6 catches. That's incredible for a backup running back.
And for some reason, we paid Maryland Mack out of the offseason. He didn't get a single touch actually that game.
Yeah, what?
It's
don't
because they did
understand.
Hines and Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield.
Well, and they just re-signed Hines too, didn't they?
Yeah, they paid him.
Yeah, so it's like Marlon Mack might be a trade chip down the road, maybe, but like, where's his value on this team?
Like he didn't have a single touch.
Like, I understand having a good rotation is important, but to not get him the ball, I just
Right.
don't know. But regardless, Seahawks look good.
Mm-hmm.
Colts didn't look bad, in my opinion. Like I said, Carson Wentz didn't play his worst game of football.
And I mean, not gonna lie, looking at that Tennessee Titans team
Makes you feel a little bit better.
and looking at the Jags and then looking at the Texans.
Do we really think the Texans are going to do what they did week 1 all year? No.
No.
So,
The Jags, they look like they struggle.
now granted, I don't think the Titans will do what they did week 1 all year either,
No.
but it makes you, as a Colts fan, probably sleep a little easier at night.
A little bit. It's
So,
week 1.
It's week 1. You gotta
We
keep remind
telling
it,
We gotta remind ourselves that it's week 1.
but like it's so fun to speculate, so it's hard. But all right, so that was your number 4. Was-
Yes.
Okay, so my number 3 was Seattle, and I kind of have the same sentiments as you. They have so many offensive weapons. I love their offense, and defensively, they're gonna make plays once in a while. You know, Adams, still a solid safety, needs to get his hand on the ball more, but
Yeah.
I think, does he still only have one or no interceptions or something like that? Some stupid numbers like that.
I don't know. I've never heard anything like that.
I'd say I can't remember what it was, but there's some. He's not very good with interceptions, but he gets sacks. He's good. You know, he's obviously they paid him for a reason. You know, so. But no, I like Seattle a lot, and I think they'll be a very good contender in that division. So.
For number 3, I got the Buccaneers.
Okay, so my 3 was the Seattle. So yours is the Buccaneers. I don't think I have to ask you why, because I think we both understand that the Bucs are still going to be very good this year.
Well, I will clarify why I don't have them top 1 or 2. And I think that Dak Prescott exposed that,
There's a key weakness the Buccaneers have.
and it's very, very obvious.
It's that defensive backfield.
I mean, they had injuries, but I mean, still, like, it's...
Yeah, I mean, you lose
They
your
got
best corner,
exposed.
but you still got exposed. It was scary. But the thing is, that D-line didn't really put any pressure on the Cowboys
No.
either. So you got to remember, if those DBs are going to be any good this year, that
Which they
D-line,
can. They can be.
the
week
defensive
1.
line has to step it up. You got Vita
Yes.
Vea, Jason Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh, and then they got Joe Tryon,
Yeah.
like Shaq Barrett. Like, they have good edge and interior line presence. So they need to step it up in week 2.
Yes.
But ultimately, I think the Buccaneers will be just fine. So,
Their offense, too.
but we'll see. The Saints could give them problems if they play like that again.
I mean, the Saints just exposed the Packers DBs.
Well, I'm getting pretty used to seeing that.
I'm just saying that, like, DBs right now for those two teams, the Packers and Tampa, is not looking too hot. It's week 1, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, Green Bay has a history of it. At least Tampa did pretty well throughout the playoffs with that kind of thing. So, moving on. So we're on to number 3 or 2.
Two.
We're now number 2. So Tampa Bay is my number 2, which we just covered again.
Yes.
So it's kind of like we have a rotation of the same teams
Yes.
in different positions in the top 10, which makes
Yes.
sense because it's kind of easy to predict. But like, I just want to pick your brain, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
So who do you have at number 2? I can
Kansas
guess this
City.
one. Oh, okay. I cannot guess this one.
Why?
Because I really thought you were going to say the Cardinals. So you're that high on the Cardinals.
I didn't say my number 1 yet.
I can figure that one out.
So, Chiefs. I don't even think I really have to explain this one. I think that the fact that Tyreek Hill had 197 receiving yards and threw out the peace sign, I'm just going to leave it at that because there's really no more explanation.
So on my power rankings, I have the Chiefs at number 1. So we'll
That's
just go
fair.
through that. Tampa Bay is my number 2. I have the Chiefs at 1. And I kept my blurb about them short and sweet. It's the Chiefs continue to be absolutely dominant on offense in a shootout with Cleveland. A deep strike to Tyreek Hill symbolizes the old adage: the more things change, the more things stay the same.
It's fair.
Because it's true. The Chiefs, for the last 3-4 years, have been the pinnacle of success in the NFL. Like there's so few teams that can replicate what they're doing. They're the Golden State Warriors of the NFL.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that at some point that everything will either fall apart or players will leave or chase the bag. But like ultimately right now
they're
the
still
Chiefs are
getting the bag from Kansas City because they apparently don't have any salary cap. But moving on.
Juju Smith-Schuster said the Browns is the Browns. Well, the Chiefs is the Chiefs, and they're still damn good. So
yes, they are.
So your number one team, huh?
Is the Arizona Cardinals.
Weirdly, I'm rooting for the Cardinals because I bet on them week 1, and they're my only bet that, well, they're not my only bet that hit, but they are the one that made me a little bit of money back. So, because it was a rough weekend for my bets. But,
yeah.
The Cardinals look fantastic on both sides of the ball. What more can I say?
So, the Titans are still a playoff team. I know their defense is a little rough. I know Julio, he's not old, but he definitely didn't. He was kind of non-existent in that game.
Mike Vrabel had some choice words to say about Julio in that game too, so I think he's probably going to have to step it up, or he might be missing some snap counts.
A little bit.
Because Vrabel's not the kind of coach who's going to just put you in because of your name.
No.
Like, love him or hate him, he's like a hard ass of a coach, and that's kind of what Julio might need right now as a 32-year-old who just got traded for the first time in his career.
Yeah. I mean,
so,
what
are you thinking?
I know that putting the Cardinals at 1 is just like, it's a week 1 thing.
It's bold, but it's not.
But I like putting them above the Chiefs, putting anyone above the Chiefs is bold. But when you look at it from both sides of the football, like, does the Chiefs defense stand out to you?
I mean, the Chiefs defense?
Yeah.
I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. Chris Jones is on that defensive line.
Name a weakness the Cardinals have.
That's tough. But
that's
if I had to pick one, I would still say tight end. Like
tight end. I mean, still like that's
like it's tough.
Tight end. Like you're telling me tight end.
I mean, name their tight end.
I don't know.
Exactly. That's the only thing I can think of. And maybe they could probably use a better middle linebacker, but I could be wrong on that too.
I mean, you can't really find a. They beat a playoff team 38-13.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, right? Like, but then you go back and again you say it's week 1. Look at what the Saints did against Packers. Packers have been in back-to-back playoff games or
Kyler Murray,
championships.
D-Hop looked good last year.
D-Hop looks good every year. If you put cleats on the guy, he's going to go catch balls.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I don't think you can discount how good DeAndre Hopkins is, because when you have Kyler Murray throwing to him, you can say, wow, that's good. But he got the ball to other wide receivers too.
Christian Kirk had a pretty good game.
Christian Kirk had a great game. Kyler Murray had a great game passing. Hop had a good game catching. Like, it's just every one of their players had a good game, except for maybe James Conner. Because I'm pretty sure
he's the backup. Yeah,
I think he's the backup
to Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, Edmonds is good too, but I don't think he had a crazy game. So if you want to be technical, I guess running back is their weakness on offense, and tight end. And also the O-line looks much more improved than last year because Kyler Murray was running for his life quite a bit last year. So I guess, yeah. I mean, the Cardinals look fantastic, and I told you, like, the Cardinals could win that division. I really thought that.
I think our top 10 is gonna change a lot.
It always does. Like, there's a team that's definitely at some point going to be moving into the top 10.
I can already tell which team that is.
What one do you think?
Patriots.
You really have that much faith, hey?
No, I was joking.
Okay, I was going to say, wow.
They just lost to Miami Dolphins. We absolutely hate Tua, so.
The thing is, Tua played okay. He didn't play bad. He didn't make any deathly mistakes that cost them the game. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's probably grown up a little bit, played a little, learned some stuff in the system, which he should have done the whole last year anyway because he wasn't pro ready, and they threw him into a situation where he had to be ready to play and put the playoffs on the line for him. Should have had Fitzpatrick in.
So let's talk about some teams that we don't have in our top 10. I think our top 10 is like obviously the top like 5 teams are like pretty much set in stone for everybody. Maybe a little different rankings. Top 10 maybe different, but what about the Eagles?
So,
I know we
excuse
weren't
me.
high on the Falcons, but how Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith. I mean,
So for me, I have the Eagles at 17, which seems low. I know, because I really did think they were dominant in that game. And if you read my blurb, it's very positive for the Eagles. But the
right.
thing is, the Falcons looked terrible on both sides of the ball, and I don't think it was
Absolutely.
really because of anything the Eagles did. I think it's just because they're that bad.
I mean, their offensive line did not show up. I can tell you that because I have Mike Davis on in fantasy.
He had what 10 and a half points, and it was
But
just
like he was on the goal line a couple times, and he couldn't even like get to the line of scrimmage, and you're getting tackled.
so. It's
You
just
know?
I don't. Hertz looked way more improved than last season, though.
Oh, absolutely.
He looked, precise. Decisive is a good
He looked
word.
comfortable.
Yeah, but I mean, like, decisive is a good word because he kind of knew what he was doing. It almost looked like instead of kind of winging it every play. Like he used to
Yeah.
roll out a lot and try to find the play, and the play was coming to him on Sunday. So
Absolutely.
I like the Eagles, but I'm afraid to put them too high because I think if you fly too close to the sun, they might burn their wings. The Icarus.
So one
Thing,
game
so.
we both were wrong on. We both picked Washington.
Yeah.
L.A. Justin Herbert threw 337 yards.
So it's funny you mention LA because I have LA at number 11.
Okay.
And the reason I put him there is because I think Washington's defense is still very good. But LA played really well. Honestly, the only thing that's holding them back from being super good, and this is a bold statement, but I think it's Justin Herbert. He didn't play that crazy. Like he wasn't like, oh my God, Justin Herbert's the best in the football or in the league. Like he had one touchdown, one interception. I think it was like 240 yards. So it's not like you could say, like, I'm not saying that he's the reason holding them back. That sounds stupid because he's a second year quarterback, but like they could be better, they could be worse. So number 11, I think, is where it's about fair.
It's fair. I mean, we talked about this before. I mean, we're still not sold on Keenan Allen.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not sold on Keenan Allen. I think I've made my mind up about Keenan Allen.
We're not sold that he's the guy.
I think they need a better wide receiver, like another one.
Well, they keep having Mike Williams and Keenan Allen as their rotation, and that hasn't worked for the past couple of years.
So excuse me, he actually had 337
That's
passing
what I
yards.
said.
So that's my bad. But it's Keenan Allen he's a number one receiver on that team, no doubt, no question. They also got the ball a little bit to Jared Cook, their new tight end. Mike Williams had a big day. He had a big day. I mean, but that's what they need him to do because they've had him on the roster for 3 years now, and he's been kind of terrible. Like, I mean, it's just, you can say that was Phillip Rivers, or you could say that was Herbert being a rookie, but honestly, I just think he's playing for the bag right now, and he's healthy. Mike Williams.
Mike Williams.
But I like the Chargers enough to put them in the top 15, but they could go either way. They could fall or they could fly, So Washington, though, I think their defense is still very good, and I'm not giving up faith on them going forward.
You traded him in fantasy twice.
I did, but I made trades that would benefit me more than having a good defense. So bear with me on that.
I like Los Angeles, but I'm not sold on them like you are. Like, I agree with you. Like, I'm not sold.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
I think Justin Herbert, he's
Like-
obviously he's up there.
Like, they could bump into the top 10,
They
or they
could.
could fall into the bottom half.
Yes.
Like, it's just, you don't really know where they're
You
at.
don't, yeah.
And,
exactly.
and Washington is one of those teams right now where it is week one. They just lost Ryan Fitzpatrick. Taylor Heineke looked good when he played, but it's just tough to see what the roster is going to look like going
And-
forward.
It was a 4-point game.
Yeah.
It wasn't
So-
like they blew each other out.
So that's like with my power rankings, Washington fell pretty hard because I didn't know where to put them because they lost, but they didn't look that bad. So they ended up at 23 for me because I can't put them ahead of a bunch of teams that won.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't, the other reason they fell for me is I think Ryan Fitzpatrick getting hurt sucks. What did they say? It was a hip
It was
something
something with his hip.
Yeah, so I mean, he could be out for 4 weeks. He could be out for 10. I think they said 8 is about the timetable, 6 to 8. But
So the next game we'll talk about. I'm gonna talk first
okay, go ahead.
because I know you have lots to say
boy.
about this.
Oh no,
So before you go on your, I'm not gonna say
my rampage.
your rant about what happened. So we're gonna talk about the Packers and the Saints game.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the stats, okay, if you look at the stats, Jameis Winston had 148 passing yards and 5 touchdowns.
Just so.
Just 148 yards.
Which is why when it's, if I can interrupt, which is why when I say he didn't have a crazy game passing the ball other than his touchdowns, I mean it because he was just efficient. He made the right plays when he had to, and they didn't have to pass the ball that much.
I mean,
it was a 1-2 punch at running back, and then if they got a third down, they hucked it or got a first down, and that was it. And then it would score a touchdown if they wanted to. But go on.
like I said, when Aaron Rodgers had the ball, he had time. But when you look at the replays, there was a DB on every single player at all times. There wasn't there was no space. And sometimes he would just throw it to the sideline close to a guy and maybe he grabbed it, but he couldn't throw it right at him because the guy was right there. So it's like, is Scantling not getting open? Was there, I don't know, was Lazard not getting open? Was Tanya not getting open?
He barely even targeted Tunyon. It was not a good game.
Well, there was just, like I said, there was just nobody to target.
Smothered is a good word. Just suffocating defense.
Aaron Rodgers, he's proved it all his whole career. So I'm not going to say just the past couple years, but he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He proved that. He's always that guy that has 30 to 3. Or not 30 to 30 like Winston has in the past. But when you looked at it and you were like, damn, Rodgers just threw 2 interceptions in one game, that's a mind-blowing stat.
It definitely is. And the one that was overthrown, the guy had to really catch up to it. So it wasn't like it was just a bad pass. I think he threw that with the intention of it maybe going over the guy's head. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, the safety...
I think it was Scantling running up the field. But
well, the safety was double coverage with Adams, but the ball went so high and far that he had time to sprint over.
Well, I mean,
last second, when he knew
closing speed was incredible, but
right.
But the one pick in the red zone there, that was all Rodgers in my opinion. That was just horribly underthrown in my opinion.
I didn't have the Saints in my top 10 just based on the fact that I think Green Bay just had a brutal game.
Yeah, and I put them at 8, and I think they're one of those teams, like I said, they can move back if I need them to. I don't I don't love the Saints going forward, but if their defense plays other teams like that, I think other teams and other fan bases will figure out that Green Bay wasn't just not trying like people think they were.
So the Monday night game.
Yes.
The next game.
Fantastic game.
Fantastic game. I know it's Las Vegas. I know it's the Raiders. I know we are not high on them. Rightfully so.
Yeah, and okay, can I just interject? Just
interrupt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have Baltimore at 14 still.
Okay.
Which is above where I have the Packers, just so you're aware.
Okay.
I don't think the the Ravens are going to be that bad. The game was great. Mm-hmm. Lamar made a lot of plays, but he needs to throw the ball more. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion, but you can run out of pocket. You can make plays that way, but ultimately you have one of a top 4 tight end in the NFL. Get him the ball.
He had 105 receiving yards out of the 435 passing yards for Derek Carr.
Yeah, so look, you have wide receivers, Sammy Watkins, Marquise Brown. There's good players on that team, and Mark Andrews just got the bag. Get him the ball in the red zone. You can score with him. I don't think Lamar Jackson's bad. I'm not going to call him a running back. But, make plays with your arm, not always with your feet. That would be my only criticism.
It is week 1. I know we keep saying that, but the running back situation for Baltimore was still they were trying to figure it out. They didn't really the first half, like, what was it, Tyson Williams, is that his name?
Yeah.
He had the primary amount of the carries, and then the second half they tried out Latavius Murray. So they were, like, trying to figure out, like, which one was going to be, like, the guy moving forward, which I still don't think they figured out.
Well, I kind of think they did, to be honest.
What do you think it is?
Well, so Tyson Williams had 9 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown.
Okay.
That's an average of 7.2 yards a carry.
Okay.
That, to me, tells you everything you need to know, because guess how many yards a carry that Latavius Murray averaged?
What?
2.8. And
That's
he had
most.
one more attempt. So I don't like to say, like, oh, they don't know what they're doing or whatever, but I think you got to give the hot hand the ball, and to give Latavius Murray 10 carries to Tyson Williams 9 when he already proved that he's going to average that in that game was stupid on the Ravens' part.
I mean, then again, like, Murray just learned the playbook, too.
That and Murray's a different kind of back, it seems like. So, like power backs aren't going to average the most amount of carry, like yards on a carry. But at the same time, 2.8 yards a carry versus 7.2, I think you go with the hot hand no matter what. But
I think you still have Murray in the rotation.
Definitely.
Passing.
Definitely.
Like, passing to him outside the backfield.
Well, see, that's the thing is they didn't hit him outside with a pass all game.
Right.
But Williams had 3 catches for 29 yards, which is still a solid average for a running back. So it's like, okay, that's what, almost 9.4 yards a carry or whatever, 9.3 yards a catch. Like, that's solid. That's almost a first down every time he caught the ball. So I think Tyson Williams is the guy going forward, but, Le'Veon Bell, DeAndre, or is it?
Who?
What's that?
Le'Veon Bell who?
Former Michigan State running back,
Who?
Le'Veon Bell.
Who?
But yeah, so I think Le'Veon Bell and it's Devontae Freeman are probably one of them will probably get cut though. I don't see them.
I think it's gonna be Le'Veon Bell.
It depends. It depends on first personally, I think Freeman should get cut because at least Bell brings an element to the game that Freeman doesn't, and Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman are very similar backs. So I just think it'll be Freeman personally, unless they like Freeman more than Murray. But they paid Murray more, so I assume that they would. And plus, Harbaugh talked a lot about how he liked Murray. So
He did talk a lot about that.
So I think that's going to be probably the lineup going forward is maybe bring in one of the guys off the practice squad, either Bell or Freeman, and then have that 3-back rotation.
That's fair. That's fair. How do you like the Raiders moving forward?
So I have the Raiders at 19 because they won. You can't put them too far down. But at the same
you still have them below the Ravens?
Yes.
Even though they won.
Yes. I think that the Raiders play in a much tougher, well, maybe not tougher, because the Ravens play the Browns, Bengals, and Steelers, which the Bengals are kind of not a factor in that. But Vegas has to play the Broncos, who I actually have pretty highly rated. I like the Broncos this year.
I don't.
They have to play the Chargers, who we both have relatively highly rated, and they have to play the Chiefs, who we both know will probably dominate this year. So I just think 19 made the most sense for me at that point because, like, the only real thing that the Vegas Raiders did is they got in Lamar's face a little bit. Max Williams had two sacks, Max Crosby had 2 sacks, and I think Carl Nassib had 1, which Lamar Jackson doesn't get sacked a lot. Usually gets out of the pocket or he runs upfield and then gets tackled. So I think that Raiders D-line is pretty stout. They also gave up 7.2 yards carry to a running back who's never played in the league before. So I say the D-line's stout, but at the same time, you're giving up those yards. So I don't know. I think Las Vegas is another one of those teams that's just going to move one way or the other all season. They're going to bounce back and forth. They could beat a good team, move up 4 spots. They could lose to a bad team, move down 4 spots. It's hard to say. But again, it's week 1, which we keep saying.
I can see them as a wild card.
Really?
Yeah.
But how? I mean, like, that's such a tough division for them to be able to win that many games.
Okay, but if you think about it, the Chiefs are probably going to be the 1 or 2 seed
in the AFC.
In the AFC.
Yeah.
But you look at it from, like, okay, AFC North, 3 of those teams, technically speaking, could be a playoff team.
True.
AFC South, I mean, maybe 2, maybe 1. It's give or take. AFC East, I mean, you got the Bills. I'm pretty sure they're still going to win the division.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against that.
I don't think that just based off the first, I mean, it's the first game, but New England did not look as good as I thought they were going to be.
No, but I don't think that's like it's Mac Jones' first start, and Miami did get after him a little bit.
I know. I'm just saying, like, if you look at like the other teams in the AFC, I think that the Raiders could snag a wild card spot.
I mean, it's possible. It just depends on who. Like, I don't know their schedule. I don't know who they play. That's non-division, so it's like maybe they will, but. Depends. I think they're a solid team. They're definitely middle of the pack at worst, I think. So 15-19 made sense for me there. Or I guess 15-20. But so moving on, I have one that I want to know about your opinion on and where you have them ranked, because this one's going to bother me if I don't ask. So I have the Tennessee Titans at number 16, smack dab in the middle of the 32 teams in the league.
16?
Yeah.
Why?
So they're one of those teams that I think had a terrible week one. And I have the Packers at 15. So if that gives you any idea of what I had going on in my brain, it was like, all right, these are both teams that are probably going to go up. I don't think they're going to lose 2 games straight, at least not that badly.
Right.
So I have the Tennessee Titans at 16.
I have them at 23.
Okay, so you have them that low.
Yeah, I don't trust their defense this year.
I don't either, but
at all.
I don't think that they're going to get beat by the Cardinals beat them every week either, and I think they'll win games. They're probably going to win at least 9 games, at least maybe 10. But
I mean, like we said, the coach doesn't trust Julio right now.
No, and I don't think that that's a reflection on Vrabel
I don't think
or
Tannehill is
Julio.
as good as people say he is. Now, obviously, you have King Henry, who can take over a game at any given time.
Yeah, but he didn't.
But that offensive line did not show up.
Yeah, they didn't do him any
all.
favors. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, how are you gonna have a guy he rushed for 2,000 yards last season,
Yes.
and they held him to 46 yards or something like that.
Almost less than that, I feel like.
So it's like I don't think you get to put the Titans too high, because like if Henry doesn't get it going, which he probably will, but if he doesn't, that's their biggest weapon. That's their meal ticket. That's how they win games, is that ground game. And we'll see what happens going forward. But
I mean, I don't think I'd rank them too low.
I think 23 is like, all right, you're on the brink of being disrespectful, but
You
like,
are. I'm not trying to do that because I'm a Colts fan. But I think I have the Colts at like 17.
well, like literally every other NFC North team other than the Packers, who I had at 4 or 3 going into the season, like all of them are like 22, 23, 24 now or something like that. So like, yeah, they'll probably do better, but right
Who's
now,
your worst team?
the Jaguars.
All right.
Is that who you had
Who's
too?
31?
31 is Atlanta.
The Lions.
Wow, really?
Yes.
So you would agree with me that game was more of a reflection on the 49ers giving them the game back than them actually climbing back into it?
Well, I think it was like almost immediately. Like it happened so fast, the Lions like came back.
Yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with them actually clawing back into the game. I think it had more to do with the Niners. So, all right. What do you want to talk about next?
Fantasy a little bit?
We could talk about that a little. I think there's something to be said about our teams.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, the worst thing you can do in fantasy is trade your first pick when you do top 5. When you draft top 5. If you don't know me, I trade a lot.
His name is literally Jack of all trades in our league because it's all he does. He wakes up every morning and tries to screw with people and just sends stupid trades to people sometimes.
And I sent one guy a stupid trade.
Okay, so I wouldn't call it stupid, but I think he just genuinely doesn't value the player you're talking about. I wouldn't call it stupid. Some people have different mindsets. So
I got Zeke for Odell.
Okay, so yeah, like I don't love that trade, but like at the same
I don't love it either, but I love it because I got Zeke.
And honestly, do we really think Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be better?
I think he's going to be way better.
So do I. I tried to get Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams after their poor week 1, but he wasn't buying it. He was not.
Osler was not going to do that.
He was not He was not smelling what The Rock was cooking, if you know what I'm saying. So
We're not gonna go over like our teams in depth, but like
my team's bad. I'm just gonna say that my team is
we
not very
both
good.
took an L. I think Henry definitely did not help at all. So, who'd you pick up on the waiver wire? Anybody?
I picked
You know what
up.
I'm talking about?
Well, so I dropped Nelson Aguilar for Mo Alley Cox, and then promptly picked Nelson Aguilar back up for Mo Alley
'cause he
Cox
had a
because he had
touchdown.
like 16 points in week 1.
Yeah.
And then I traded Tyler Boyd and the Washington defense for the Buccaneers defense and Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is going to be Burrow's favorite target in the red zone. Not because he's the biggest guy or whatever.
You can see the stripe down the ball.
Well, that's what on my rankings it says. Bengals fans rejoice. Jamar Chase can catch. So it's. I think he'll have a good season, and I think he'll be pretty consistent.
That is a big bow on that baby.
Sorry. Anyway, but I think Jamar Chase will have a good season, and Tyler Boyd kind of didn't show up too much in week 1, but he's also still the number 1 receiver. So I think Matt was kind of going, okay, well maybe Jamar Chase had a good week 1, but Tyler Boyd's probably going to bounce back.
I think he won that trade.
I think so, but everybody who accepts a trade thinks they won the trade until later.
Did you see Chris and?
I did. We got to talk about that if we're going to talk about fantasy. So one of our guys made a trade, and honestly, it's not a bad trade.
I think it benefited both sides.
Definitely. Well, and like I said, every trade, whoever accepts the trade thinks they won the trade. Do you know what I mean? You never trade a player away and you're like, you know what? I lost that trade. Damn.
Like Dawson tried to trade for Derrick Henry this morning, and I was like, yeah, right.
All right, come on. You do that stuff all the time. I had to give it a
know.
shot in the dark.
Dude, sometimes I'll like try to trade my defense for like somebody's top running back
Sometimes that kind of works.
on like a Thursday afternoon.
It's wild how that stuff works out, but yeah, we've had some issues with our waiver wire this year too, and I tried to fix it, and I don't know if it worked, but
I think everyone's actually is on Wednesday now
I think so.
from the chats that I've been reading.
It seems that way, which is kind of dumb because I like
everyone's
being
mad
on
about it.
Tuesday and Wednesday instead of like having
I like
2
having it
days.
on Tuesday.
Me too,
You
because
wake
it's
up
right after the game, and
right after Monday Night Football. You wake up and you're like, damn, did I get them? I picked up Arizona's defense, which I forgot I did, and now I have 3 defenses. and
so
I
yeah,
don't
you
know
might
what
need to either cut one or trade one, and I'm not trading for Cleveland's defense, so don't even bother.
to- Wait, why didn't you draft the Browns defense?
We talked about this before, but it may not have made it into the last podcast. But I tried to draft the
Who'd you
Cleveland,
draft?
New England,
And who has New England now?
Matt. Or do you?
I do.
You do, because I got Washington, and then I gave Washington
I have
to
the
Matt.
Browns and the Patriots
So yeah, I moved 3 defenses in trades.
in 2 days.
There weren't super major trades. I'm looking to get another running back, but that's about all I have for
Do you
fantasy
want Mike
right
Davis?
now. No.
Do you want?
Atlanta's offensive line looks a lot worse than I thought they were going
Yeah,
to. So,
that's the only running back I have on my bench.
ouch. Might need
I
to
have
figure
3
that-
defenses.
Well, you also have a running back in your flex, so
It's Derrick Henry.
yeah. So like you could easily have another running back on your bench, but why would you?
I have like 8 wide receivers.
For those of you who don't know, he has Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, and Derrick Henry, which is like 3 first-round picks depending on where you're picking.
My team is Josh Allen,
more
Cooper
like
Kupp, Corey
top
Davis,
2
Joe
rounds.
Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, Everett, Henry, Cleveland's defense.
I won't go through my team because my phone just died, but yeah.
You have like 5 Chargers in this room.
It's crazy. I can't find any of them. Anyway, moving on. What did you want to talk about next?
Wow, you see, there's a lot of injuries week 1.
There was, and some pretty significant. Why don't we start from the bottom?
Yeah, so let's start with the Lions. I mean,
Yeah, so Terrell Williams, the wide receiver, I think he's their number 1 wide receiver.
yeah, almost.
He left with like an apparent concussion brain injury thing, and then the next day they definitely announced it, and it was like a big deal because
Yeah.
the Lions are already really thin at receiver.
I mean, practically their only guy was really T.J. Hawkinson that people knew about.
Well, Hawkinson, and then they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right, they just didn't have any film on him.
Yeah, and then they have Quintez Cephas, I think it is. but like Tyrell Williams has had injury concerns his whole career. Never really concussions, but
Right.
it really sucks to see. And like weird in an area where there's a lot of Lions fans, so it's not great for the Lions. But worse is Jeff Okuda, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Achilles tear. That's tough. I mean, granted, he wasn't playing very good in that game, and he had a rough rookie campaign, but he's still a young guy. You never want to see guys leave the field and have their
Achilles
season
and
ended.
ACLs are not.
It's just it really bums you out. Like no matter what team you're a fan of, like I might yell when I'm watching a game, like, "Oh, I hope he tears his head off" or whatever. But
Yeah.
like ultimately, I never want to see someone miss time.
Even as you're a Packers fan, watching Lions guys get hurt.
It's tough. Like
It's
you
so
don't
tough.
you don't want players to get hurt because like it ruins the level of competition that goes on the field. Like obviously, if the best player is on the field, that gives them the best chance to win.
I mean, somebody in my division got hurt. DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah, so DeMarcus Lawrence plays for the Cowboys, and he just I think he broke something. I didn't really see it, but that was as we were recording that came
I
up.
was thinking of Dexter Lawrence. I don't know.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence. That's tough because in Week 1 he was pretty damn good
He
against
did play pretty damn good.
against the Buccaneers. He put pressure on Brady all game. So that's a big loss for the Cowboys. There was a couple other ones we mentioned earlier, like Raheem Mostert, which not to downplay them. OBJ is not playing again this week.
Like Jason Verrett.
Verrett for sure, that's a big loss. Like, and I'm sure there's more. I could get really into it if I really wanted to, but it's just tough to see a lot of players go down this early in the season, and it happens every year. Like,
Every year.
it doesn't matter if you're a 17-year veteran or a rookie. Like somebody's gonna get hurt. It's just gonna happen. It's part of the game. It's a brutal game out there, But you never like to see players get hurt. So that kind of wraps up what we had to go over
Yeah,
today.
that wraps up week 1.
The Thursday night game, if we want to talk about that real quick, because it's coming up. That's Washington versus New York, and I don't think that's. I think I know where we're both thinking.
Washington versus New York.
The Giants.
They just played each other.
They didn't.
Yeah, they did.
What?
Joking.
Oh, I was so confused.
No, I'm throwing you off.
I sent the wrong schedule to the group chat earlier,
I know,
so I was
that's
like,
why.
"Oh God, did I really mess this up again?" But no, Washington versus New York this Thursday. I got Washington in that game. They'll bounce back with Heineke or not. I don't like Daniel Jones that much, so and that defense is terrible. Also, they couldn't get the run game going against the Broncos defensive front, so I don't think it's going to be any easier against Washington.
I have to agree, but I wish Fitzpatrick was in.
Yeah, it puts them at a little disadvantage, but I am kind of excited to see what Taylor Heineke can do because he almost beat the Buccaneers last year in the playoffs. So it's like, okay, maybe this guy's legit.
I mean, you got to give it to Scary Terry, though.
Definitely got to get him the ball.
GOAT.
I think he had 4 receptions for 60 yards in week 1, which not bad numbers compared to some of the other receivers out there, but like tough to see because you'd think he'd be, a very, very dominant target. But like, yeah. But I think that if he's going to bounce back, the Giants is a great team. Their defense looked bad. They looked bad against the Broncos.
Who are our picks for week 2? Did we go over that?
I don't think we did. We could talk about that if you'd like to. You could pitch me the games because, like I said, my phone and laptop are both dead now.
We
So
also sent the wrong
schedule.
schedule in the group chat earlier.
Yeah, I think we just talked about that, but that was my bad. I looked it up. I think it was the 2019 schedule, and I just saw Packers versus
you
Lions
saw
week 2,
Packers
so I was
versus
like, "Oh,
Lions
this is
Monday
right."
night.
Yeah, it's my bad.
So we just went over Washington, the Giants.
Yep. So we both have Washington for that one. What do you got for the next game, week 2? Week 2, game 2.
So it's Bengals, Bears.
I'm gonna take the Bengals. I like the Bengals going forward.
Really?
Yeah.
In Soldier Field.
Ooh, that's a hostile environment. Soldier Field's a pretty. The Bears fans are passionate. They stack stadium or fill up stadiums. I'll still take the Bengals.
I'll take the Bears.
Okay, that's fair. It could swing either way, but I like Burrow and Chase. I'm gonna ride the wave.
I think Soldier Field is going to be named after Justin Fields. You got Houston and the Browns. I think we both know who you're.
Well, I think we both know who we're both going with because if you pick Houston, I'm gonna be upset with you.
Well, it's in Cleveland. So
Okay, so it's definitely Cleveland.
definitely Cleveland. So you got the Rams and the Colts.
I'll take the Rams. I hate to do that to you, but
I mean, Colts are starting the season 0-2, so
that's tough. That's a really tough couple matchups. But yeah, I'll take the Rams.
we
Is
got-
that in Indy or is that in
it's in
SoFi?
Indy.
Okay, yeah. I'll still take the Rams. Sorry.
Buffalo and Miami. I got Buffalo.
Buffalo. They'll bounce back.
Uh,
They'll definitely bounce back against Miami.
Patriots and Jets.
Pats. Pats are going to... Mac Jones gets his first professional win. Calling it.
I got the Pats.
I mean, Zach Wilson didn't play bad, but I think the Patriots are a better football team.
49ers, Eagles.
I'm going to take the Eagles.
I'm also taking the Eagles.
Really?
Raiders and Steelers.
Okay. Steelers. That Steelers defense is legit.
I'm gonna take the Raiders.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What's got you going the Raiders there?
I think that they're underrated, and I think they're gonna throw for like 400 yards again.
Damn. Derek Carr MVP season maybe?
I'm not sure about MVP season, but I think Waller is just way too.
I mean, he's if he gets the ball in his hands, he's an absolute weapon. So I can't disagree with that.
Saints and Panthers.
I'll take the Saints.
I'll take the Panthers.
I see. Honestly, I liked the way Sam Darnold played last weekend.
You couldn't sense my sarcasm.
Really?
Saints.
Okay. I was like, well, hey, I mean, more power to you, but I wouldn't have taken the Panthers. But I do like how Sam Darnold played last weekend.
Broncos and Jags. I got the Broncos.
I'll take the Broncos there.
So Minnesota, Arizona.
Arizona,
Arizona.
without a thought.
Best team in the league.
That Vikings defense is still terrible.
So we got Atlanta and Tampa.
Tampa.
I'll take Tampa.
I'll take Tampa
48
by minus 15.
48-0.
Yeah, really.
Dallas and LA Chargers.
Ooh, that's a good game. Is that the Sunday night game?
No.
4:25.
425.
Okay. I'll take
Dallas.
Dallas. I'm such a hater, honestly, of the Cowboys, but I gotta go Dallas.
So we got Tennessee and Seattle. I got Seattle. It's in Seattle.
I'll take Seattle there. I don't think Tennessee's gonna bounce back this week. That's such a tough bounce back game.
The Sunday night game is Kansas City versus Baltimore in Baltimore.
I'll take Kansas City. Hostile environment for Kansas City, but I'll take Kansas City.
I'll take Kansas City. This one might make you mad. It's Detroit versus Green Bay.
Listen,
in
a lot of
Green
people
Bay.
are picking them against Green Bay this week. I can't pick against the Packers. I got to speak this into existence. So go Pack, go. You know.
I got the Green Bay Packers.
All right. Okay.
In a blowout.
Really? I don't think it'll be a blowout. I'm thinking a 3-point spread at most.
I think that Green Bay
Yeah.
is going to come out firing.
Well, I think they have to. Like that's what I was talking about with one of my coworkers.
Dude, they got their asses kicked.
35-point loss.
35-point
I can't
loss.
stress this enough. I've told everybody this week. That's the worst. I've been a Packer fan my whole life. That's the worst I've ever seen the Packers play in my life. Literally only up from here. They can only get better from here. There's literally nothing they could do to be worse. Unless they threw 3 picks in a game and no touchdowns. Like, that's literally the only way it could get worse. I mean, and there's a guy at work who's a big Lions fan. He's like, I think the Packers are going to lose this weekend. I'm like, well, you can't. You can say that. Like, I understand why you
When
think
I mean
that.
blowout, I don't mean the score, because I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I
disagree with that,
I don't think the
but-
Packers are going to put up 40 points.
See, I could definitely see Rodgers throwing 4 touchdowns. Maybe 200 yards, but 4 touchdowns.
Chloe, thoughts?
You got to say something.
Say something for the podcast.
Just say either Packers or Lions.
Who do you think is going to win, Packers or Lions?
What colors are
So the Lions are blue.
They're Honolulu blue and silver. And the
And-
Packers are green and gold.
Green and gold. You have to put your
We need your 2 cents. We
Face
can't do
to
this
the
without
mic.
you. Yeah, you have to speak into the microphone.
to speak in the microphone.
Ladies and gentlemen, she said
the blue one?
the blue ones.
The
All
blue
right, so the
ones.
Lions.
All right.
She's got the Lions.
She has got the blue ones.
The Detroit Blue Ones, everyone's favorite
Detroit
football
Blue
team.
Ones. Oh my god.
Okay, so
That is a wrap.
I think that's all we got to do today. If you guys like what we're doing, like and subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Twitter, we have not posted anything.
We have
yet.
not tweeted anything yet, but it's a work in progress. We're still
And one thing too is we want your feedback.
definitely. Please leave comments. Like I really genuinely want like some level of feedback. If you like what we're doing, some
you don't like
suggestions
what
on
we're
what we're going
doing,
to talk about for the
think
week.
our predictions are trash.
I mean, they kind of are. I had 4 right last week,
mean,
but
Cardinals are my number 1 ranked team.
So, I'd
that's
be-
trash. I mean, I don't know.
seriously, leave comments, leave likes, subscribe.
I mean, join our Facebook page where we just talk sports. Literally,
I post news in there every day. So we love you guys. Have a good weekend and enjoy some football.
deuces.